Hey everyone, and welcome to an industry report that honestly is a bit odder than I thought. You see, Star Wars Squadrons is out, and the impressions are actually incredibly mixed. Now, the pro reviewers are rating the game quite highly indeed, I would say, but many enthusiasts are expressing dissatisfaction. I mean, just look at the Steam reviews. Now, the critics are praising the game for many things: the immersive gameplay, the depth of the content, and just above all else, really, how it seems to really succeed in making you feel like a Star Wars pilot. And from playing myself, yeah, I've certainly got a lot of pros, but also some cons. Now, it's also a game that is... in the past, if you thought in the past, it would be odd for EA. No microtransactions, and it's a budget-ish AAA, costing $40. You do have to wonder, is this, along with Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order, is this a bit of a new era for EA? You do have to wonder. Okay, so we're going to get into that today. Obviously, hit that subscribe button, you can get more content, and we're going to be focusing a bit more, I think, in the future on game-specific videos like this one, or No Man's Sky one, or New World one, things like that. So if you want that, hit that sub button. Otherwise, let's jump in. To get you quickly caught up with the context of this game, it was confirmed in June, but it had been leaked quite a bit before that as Project Maverick, and basically while they were working on the, I think, pretty terrible Battlefront 2 campaign, the team at Motive thought about doing a old-school feeling Star Wars flight sim, and eventually they got the higher-ups to sign off on it. And then, of course, for this game, X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter and Rogue Squadron were the big points of inspiration, so that's essentially how it all came together, and that is against the backdrop of EA's initial Star Wars efforts not doing particularly well, but then the likes of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order doing very well and really just making people happy. So that's essentially the context of this game. Let's then hop into the reception and my own thoughts. We're going to kick that off with what we all heard first, the pro reviews, and then I suppose how the user reviews tell a different story. So the game went down super well. It was praised for immersive gameplay and, the many ways that it accommodates players as well. You've got great, control scheme customization. You've got a lot of, customization over the sim-like elements in your UI. That's all pretty good. So, thumbs up for those things. Now, the critics did say that the single-player narrative was a little bit flat in terms of interactivity, but that, it's not really an RPG, and it tells a fun little side story within Star Wars that does have some cameos that people would like. And then, of course, the thing is that Motive always did say that the multiplayer modes would be the meat of the experience with this game. So, essentially, for the critic reviews, it boils down to this. It's a focused game with a pretty tight, basically tight reins over the content that it delivers, and that ultimately it does succeed in doing that sort of Star Wars hotshot pilot fantasy. What about my own thoughts? I'm going to do that before we talk about the Steam reviews. Well, the HOTAS support is not good. If you want to play this game with a flight stick, it just needs a patch. There is a big dead zone issue, which essentially means that you always end up having to oversteer, where initially as you are moving your stick, basically the controls don't kick in, and it basically just feels like the sensitivity curve takes a massive amount of time to ramp up, and right now there's no control over that. Now that basically does mean that this is just not a great gameplay experience if you are using HOTAS. Now that may vary with different HOTAS setups, but at least with the X52 and the Thrustmaster 16000, I've both seen common complaints with those. Certainly as compared to other HOTAS games that I've played, it doesn't really feel great, doesn't feel that responsive, and that certainly is an issue. And because of that, to be totally honest with you, I'm not going to play this game until it's patched, because the controls and the way that I want to play it just don't really feel great. Now also, the campaign content seems decently lacking. We did know the campaign wouldn't be massive, but yeah, it does feel a bit more budget. It does feel like essentially an extended tutorial. But that said, it is a decent bit of fun, but I'd say not worth $40 if you were only there for the single player experience. I will say though, the fundamentals are there. The ships are cool, the graphical presentation is really great, you've got lots of different loadouts, and that basically means it is set up to give you that Star Wars dogfighting experience if you want it. Now, what I will say is the flight model is not really to my tastes. I'm a lot more used to, say, Star Citizen, which, at least with the ships that I fly, is extremely responsive, super fun, especially when you get into the more hardcore sim-like elements of its flight model. It's just, I think it feels great. So with this game, I'd say overall the flight model feels slower and a bit more weighty. I think that's probably something that makes sense if it is trying to target a more kind of general broad audience. Overall, though, for the game itself, I'd say it's a simple, clear, and unambitious game. And I actually use unambitious as a bit of a compliment here, in that it does seem like it knows exactly what it wants to do, exactly who it is for, and it just wants to go and execute on that vision. Take Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That was an unambitious game, right? I mean, it was just a hodgepodge of things we've seen in other games, but it was brought together in a great way with a great presentation, and it was just a really solid experience if that's what you wanted. So I am totally down for more games like that, but right now for Star Wars Squadrons, I think there's a game there that I could quite like, very like, perhaps. There is a game there, but the HOTAS support needs to be a bit better. That's the main blocker for me. Now, of course, that's not a good thing to have happen at launch, and this just should have been picked up in QA. Now, for me, it doesn't seem like it's literally just a dead zone to like 50% or something. It just seems that the sensitivity curve in the dead zone is just so glacial that it feels that way, which, if that is a design decision, just does seem a little bit off to me. Certainly, I feel drunk when I'm playing this game as compared to other HOTAS games that I've played. So that's my overall opinions. Let's hop over, though, to Steam. The Steam user rating is 60%. That's pretty rough, and if you go through it, there's a lot of unhappy HOTAS players, which does make a lot of sense. Now, people are talking about other things, like the out-of-ship, sort of segments where you're talking to the characters, being unpolished, and there's issues with player scale in VR that are there in 2D as well, because your character is, tiny. It's really, really weird how the scale feels. Now, to me, those are just not a part of the experience that I even care about, so it wouldn't factor too much in a review for me, but they are bits of the game, and they clearly are a bit more budget feeling. Also, the length of the campaign, again, that's something that comes up. Don't go to this game if you want a long, in-depth campaign. This, I would say, treat this as a multiplayer game. So overall, I think what happened here is I think the professional reviewers hopped in to a more niche audience title, and I think they generally liked what this title was going for, but they maybe weren't clued into the particulars of what that niche audience would like, and that's why you see that gulf between the user ratings and the professional ones. Overall, here's what I'll say. If you throw in a few patches to fix up some of these problems and maybe add in some more modes, because there's not really that much in the way of modes either, then this could be a really, really great Star Wars space combat game. Right now, though, it does feel like it just needs a little bit more polishing. The HOTAS stuff absolutely needs to be fixed, but broadly speaking, I like what it's going for, and I think it has a lot of potential. Right now, it is 60% on the Steam user ratings. I think this game really could be more like an 80 once those things are polished up. What's then extremely important to me is what this means for EA, because this is now actually part of a trend, right? This is a different type of EA release as compared to other ones. Now, it is similar to some other EA releases in having a bit of a lack of polish. I mean, the HOTAS stuff really is quite annoying, but let's think about what this game is at least going for, because that's what the EA, higher-ups, that's the thing they would have signed off on, so it shows their intent. It's a smaller scope game that is a bit more tight in focus, made on a smaller budget, but then sold for a lower price. That seems pretty good to me. I mean, it's a AAA game in a budget package. It does have some single player, it does have multiplayer that's pretty good, and there's no microtransactions. Fundamentally, I am down for more of that. This is a game where they made the game for an audience. Right? It's not trying to be everything at once, it's trying to be something to someone. I think that's really good. Now, EA have seen success with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I think is a game that would appeal to far more people than this one, but it's nice to see that they're actually applying those good lessons over to this game. And that does make you wonder, have EA in any way turned a corner here in their decision making? They have been, deservedly, the butt of many industry jokes for a long time, but they do seem to be doing better, at least with their core audience offerings. I mean, this is a game with niche appeal that I think ideally was trying to emphasize quality over, quantity, right? Unfortunately, it does have some issues at launch, but in terms of what they're gunning for, I think it's something most of us could actually get behind. And it's here that I want to talk a bit about the rumor mill. So, rumor has it that there is a still unannounced Mass Effect trilogy remaster that's actually been delayed into next year. Now, details are sketchy as hell, but supposedly there are possible quality concerns related to the first game, where Mass Effect 2 and 3 have scaled up kind of beautifully, but Mass Effect 1 just isn't up to snuff right now. Again, it's hard to tell if any of that stuff is true, but it sort of would make sense. I would say, though, any Mass Effect collection would probably sell pretty well if they did a good job of it. And if it is the case that EA are stalling that release, then hey, maybe that's a good thing. Then going past that, there's actually Titanfall 3 rumors that are stemming from the data mining of Apex Legends. Now, if so, that would be great. Titanfall 2 was sadly not a great commercial success. I mean, it was sandwiched between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and I'd also say it was probably just too hard for general audiences. Like, that's a really hard game. And, I mean, multiplayer-wise, like, the skill cap and even skill requirement to play that game sort of properly is really high. So it's funny because that's, I'd say, one of that generation's, like, it's just one of the best FPS titles in so long. And it's great that it got that new lease of life following Apex Legends. So seeing this data mining is great. And then it makes us remember when EA's Blake Jorgensen did say that, a sequel to Titanfall 2 would be possible sometime down the road. So if that is happening, then hey, that would be pretty great. I mean, is this EA kind of realizing that they're called Electronic Arts and they can actually make the occasional risky thing or perhaps target a niche audience? I'd certainly hope so. I mean, this could actually be a path to them being in a far better position in the future. Like, if this is a company that's willing to do a Titanfall 3, that's just an honest-to-God, real, hard-to-play, but, like, innovative and exciting shooter, and then they're willing to do interesting things for niche audiences with the Star Wars brand, I mean, that would be a really great thing for core gamers. Now, of course, it's not going to make us forget what they're doing with FIFA Ultimate Team and all of those business practices, but still, we do have to champion the things that we like. Games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So overall, yes, I think Star Wars Squadrons is a refreshing surprise in concept. It just needs a few more patches. Once that happens, though, I think it'll be great. And it does make you think about EA across the organization trying to embrace the practices that led to Respawn having great success in terms of the rapid prototyping. That's really good. I mean, of course, Vince Zampella, we know that he has been spending a lot of time with DICE LA trying to get them to kick off projects, and it just does seem like they're actually turning a little bit of a corner. I do have to wonder, like, if EA finally realized that if you want to do well in the core gaming market, a pretty good way to do that is actually trying to make good games for audiences who want them. I mean, if that is the case, then it certainly is a decently exciting thing. But obviously, I mean, if you try to sell a game and you're great HOTAS support and then the HOTAS dead zones are borked on launch, I mean, come on. How is that not picked up on? A bit weird. Yeah, wait a few patches, and I think this game will be great, so do your research. That's essentially what's up, and that's what I think this means for generally where EA are trying to go here. That's it for me. Let me know what you think and what your experiences have been with this game, and with that said, I will see you next time.